Local Matters. Today, we begin with Mike Slawson, longtime Kingston resident and new Kingston Public Library Director. Mike joined Julie via Zoom to talk about his path to becoming a librarian, how COVID-19 has affected the library, its services, and what we can expect going forward.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Hi, Mike. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. Very exciting news. You were just promoted to the director of the Kingston Public Library. Congratulations. What does that mean?
Oh, thank you very much. Well, I was honored and I was humbled that the library trustees asked if I would be interested in the director position. I've lived in Kingston almost my entire life, and I've been coming to this library since I was a little kid. I think under normal circumstances, it would be a difficult job taking over this position, especially coming after such a great director as C.S. Stewart. But taking it over during a pandemic has made it that much more difficult. We've had to adapt pretty much everything. We've had to adapt our policies to keep the staff and public safe. We've had to adapt our services. We've had to adapt our purchasing. We've looked into obtaining new services. We've had to change the way we do almost everything, from programming to checkouts to even the way we interact with library patrons. And I think being the director it's a big role, but it's a role that so far I've embraced with everything that I have. And I think with the support of the awesome staff that we have here, we're going to keep the library moving forward.
Let me just ask you, what made you want to become a librarian in the first place?
Well, that's a good question. I've always loved learning, and I've always loved libraries. And before I worked here, I was a teacher, and I think I really got to see firsthand the importance of libraries, especially with kids. I worked at a couple different schools, one of them which didn't have a librarian, and the library was a dark, lonely place. And then comparing that to another school that I worked at, where they did have a librarian, and the library was a vibrant place where people would go and engage each other and learn. And when I started working here, it just reinforced that importance of libraries even more to me. And realizing how important the library is to a lot of members of this community really motivates me to do this job.
And a librarian or a library today is so much more than it was 20 years ago. I mean, there's just so many more things that libraries get involved with, which everyone benefits from. I did want to talk about decertification and certification of libraries. Can you talk about that process, and if your library does become decertified, what that means?
Sure. So right now, unfortunately for us, due to budget cuts, the library is on track to be decertified. Now, if that does happen, there's a number of consequences that we will suffer because of that. Number one is the loss of the ability to apply for a number of different federal grants. And just as an example, two of the LSTA grants, which is a Library Services and Technology Act grants. Two of those we've been using just this year are a financial literacy grant, which we've had some great financial literacy programs for teens and for adults that have been really well attended. We've also used that to purchase some materials that focus on the same topics. And that was for about a little over $5,000 we got for that grant. Another LSTA grant we've been using recently is a Mind in the Making grant to revamp some of the children's room as well. So if we are decertified, we would lose the ability to apply for those grants. Additionally, we would also lose state aid, which last year was about $19,000 that we got in state aid. Now that money is very important, because not only do we use it for a lot of our programming, which is kind of a double hit because we've lost so many staff, and we're also losing some of the funding we need for programming. But it's also, that money is important because it's It can be used in emergencies for unexpected expenses, for things that we didn't plan for, that pop up during the year. But I think the most severe consequence of the library being decertified is the loss of interlibrary loan. And what that would mean is that Kingston residents will not be able to use the collections of our neighboring libraries in the OCLN network. So if you have a Kingston library card and our library is decertified, you will be restricted to what's in the building, in our holdings and in our collections. If you go to another OCLN library, it's very likely you will not be able to check out materials.
Okay.
And this is going to be more important than ever now, especially with kids needing books for school, and with the amount of kids who are being homeschooled now.
Right.
It's going to be more important than ever.
Okay, so clearly you need to keep your certification. So what can anyone do to help you in that process of keeping your certification?
Well, so in order to remain certified, the library is going to need to restore some of our funding that was cut. Right now, we've lost about half of our staff, and the library is struggling to maintain basic services. So what I would say right now, the best thing people can do if they are library supporters is to get the word out. I think people need to know what's going on at the library, and we're in the process of forming a campaign to do just that, to get the word out. But I think it's important for friends and or for people to tell their friends and tell their family that if they are library supporters, the library could use your help at next town meeting. And if you are a library supporter, I would suggest going to town meeting and making your voice heard.
Okay, so that's what people could do. Now, also, you need volunteers at your library. So what positions do they do? What do they do? And how do they get in touch to become volunteers?
Sure. So we need volunteers for a number of different roles. First, what we would really like is to have people from the community who are interested in sharing some of their talents or sharing some things that they're interested in. If they'd like to run a program, and we can do this online. We can set up all the technology. Another area we're looking for is for a program that we're doing called Stories from Kingston. So these are local residents who read stories, and we videotape it, and then we release the video with a craft to go with the video. So this is one of the ways that we were really cut or really hurt by these cuts was the loss of our head of youth services. So as of right now, we don't have those twice a week story times that we had before. So this Stories from Kingston program is a way to try to fill in some of that gap.
Right.
So if people have a favorite kid story that they'd like to read, they can get in touch with me, or they can even just record themselves reading and send me the video, and we'll get it up there. They can find all that information right on the front page of our website. There's a button that says volunteers needed, and they can click on that, and that'll take them to a page where they can contact me. Another role that we will need eventually once we start opening are greeters. Mm-hmm. We're going to need to monitor how many people are in the building, when they've come in, and more as well. And right now, we just don't have the staff to dedicate somebody to doing that.
Sure, understood. So clearly, a library does so much for the community, and it does from little kids to seniors. I mean, everyone can take advantage of libraries now, and it would be such a great loss to any town, but especially to Kingston, to lose your library. And hopefully, people will hear your call and go to town meeting, which I think is going to be in December. It hasn't been finalized yet, to support you and to support the budget for the library, so you're not decertified. And finally, just on almost a personal note, we always like to know how people view the whole pandemic. Clearly, it's not a good thing at all, but there's always a silver lining. What silver lining or linings have you seen during this pandemic?
Well, there's been quite a few, believe it or not. I think it's a tough time for the library, but like you said, there are always silver linings, and there's several, I think, here at the library. Number one is our curbside pickup service. It's been a really great program. It's really, really popular, and people really like it. And I keep thinking, I don't know how we're ever going to go back to not having curbside pickup, because it's so popular. Another silver lining on this is the way programming in libraries has evolved over the last few months. The switch to virtual programs has really opened up a whole new avenue to libraries. And now that most programming is done online, a lot of libraries are sharing their programs with neighboring libraries.
Mm-hmm.
So Kingston and Plymouth are advertising for each other's programs, and where attendance is going up. It's been really interesting to watch over the last few months how virtual programs have evolved from sort of very primitive with awkward silences, and people sort of didn't know exactly what to do. And now you look at it and they know how to run a virtual program. So,
Right.
That's been a big one. And then finally, I think something else that's come out of this is people are giving ebooks and e-audiobooks a chance. I know I know, because I was one of them, that there are a lot of people who may be hesitant to start reading ebooks. They like the feel of a book in their hand. But I think with a lot of libraries being closed, people have had no other option except to give ebooks a try.
Sure.
And I think there are a lot of people out there who are now getting hooked on them, and now can see the value of having a book in your pocket no matter where you go.
Right.
And when you have 5 minutes when you're waiting in line, you can pull out your phone and read a few pages of your favorite book. So I think that's another silver lining of this.
Agreed. Absolutely. And it's wonderful that we can look at this pandemic through the glasses of things can be more positive, and more positive things have happened. And I totally agree with you about the online presence. I mean, we're all getting used to this, and you're right, we're getting good at this. And people are going to love the fact that they're going to have both down the road. They're going to be able to be in person, or they're going to be able to stay with this kind of program, which is wonderful. Well, best of luck to you. Thank you so much. We've enjoyed having you today.
Thank you for having me.
The fundamental role our libraries play in keeping ideas, culture, and literacy accessible to people at all stages of life can't be overstated. Best wishes to you, Mike, on what I'm sure will be both a challenging and rewarding adventure as director of the Kingston Public Library.